I can hold you accountable or someone else can, but we have to do this. We have to get clear on where we are and why. And now we have to get clear on where we want to go. And this is a really, really important part. And it's really fun to just be creative and let our minds wander and get really clear on where we want to be. I think for so many years, I just was like, I want to make 100,000. I want to make 6 figures. That sounds cool. Every year on the top of my business plan, I wrote $100,000 and then how many transactions is that? But what does that mean and why? Was it just because I thought it sounded cool to make $100,000? Did I know how much I needed to live the life I wanted to live? Probably not. I wasn't tracking. And even when I got better, I was just like, okay, this is how much I did last year. I want to double that or increase it by 20% or whatever. So instead of starting with those numbers that may or may not be relevant or important, get really clear on your life goals, not just your business goals. We probably had goals before real estate or just like have things that are working in our life and things that are not. So yeah, if you want to build a house, do you just start like nailing some wood together? No, you start with what you want it to look like, the blueprint, and then you go back and do step by step. You start with if you want a 6-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house. Why? So get clear on why you're doing all this. Like if money wasn't a thing, if money was, you had as much money as you wanted, how would you spend your time? What would you do more of? What would you do less of? That's such a hard question for us. And it's so weird now that we don't think about it. I definitely can think of things that I want to do less of, but it's hard for me to really, we don't think about it. We're just in our hamster wheel, going and going and going, faster, faster, row harder. But we can change our boat. We can really get clear on why. Why is this important? So what would it do for you if you could double your income, but not your time? And then once we have more clarity about what that looks like, we can architect and work backward in order to get there. If we just start with that 100,000 or whatever, but we don't know why we want the money, we're probably, it's hard to do the things. They're uncomfortable and you're not going to feel like it. You're not going to be in the mood. Willpower doesn't work. So you're not going to do the things if the number and the why is not super important. And Jordan, this has been a shift too. Think of your life like a story or a game. And for me, I see the first 40 years of my life and the low points. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, that's just a chapter of my life. Like the end of the story is not here yet. Or, what if I was writing a book about someone else's life and how would I want it to end? Or a game, or like, when I heard other people read their books or talk about their lives on podcast, I'm like, man, they always had a really sucky chapter. A lot of them had a worse chapter than mine, and look at them now. So instead of being a hater and being like, oh, that's nice for them, they're rich, it's easy for them to say, and roll your eyes, because trust me, I've done that a lot. But think about using that as inspiration. So like where they were, they made a decision. They worked their butts off most of the time. They made mistakes, but they didn't give up. So let that inspire you. And most of the time, they'll tell you exactly what they did. You're hearing their story for a reason. They want to help you. So take the time to do this, kind of review what you want to be about this year, whether that's like the word of the year or go all in or create joy and love or really be where you are or really look at and deal with the monsters under your bed, whatever it is, like take some time away and review your philosophies. Why do we think so long-term? I know it's really tough because we really just want to close that next deal. Like we are stuck in survival mode and we just have to get to that next deal. But staying in that place and doing things out of that desperation, we're not going to get the things in place that we really need. And it's kind of easy when you're just like, man, I need this deal so I can pay my credit card or buy this or buy that, because we're used to disappointing ourselves and we're kind of okay with it because it becomes a pattern, at least for me. But, the consequences of not getting that next 10K and paying off your credit card will live, whatever. So thinking long-term really gives us an anchor to help us with our consistency, like thinking about where we want to be with our health, our relationships, our family. Like if we don't get to this vision we want, it's not about us. It affects our family. It affects our loved ones. It affects our parents sometimes. So it's really important. And I like to create a vision board, some kind of visual representation of your goals. I have a map of Memphis behind me and my investment properties. I have, a number of agents and names and who I want on my team. And, I have my goals in front of me. As many senses as we can get it in, whether it's making a quick little movie or recording yourself or just looking or writing your goals every day, it really puts it in our brain in a clear way and reminds us and gets it in our subconscious and make sure that we have that anchor to drive us to do the things that are not always fun. Yeah, it reminds us we're not just disappointing ourselves, we're disappointing our family, our kids, and even bigger than that, like if we think afterlife, the charities, the people, like whatever you're passionate about, people that are hungry, need houses, want to play sports, therapy, whatever it is that is your why. Like when you think about that, it's easier to make some calls, do an open house, whatever it is that you need to do day to day. And it's kind of brutal, but someone said this and it really sunk in with me. Like I imagine like bending down and looking at my kids' faces and being like, hey, we didn't get to go to Hawaii or these amazing national parks because mommy was a coward and I was afraid to get on video because I was afraid of what people thought of me. So it is kind of brutal, but yeah, people, it's not just about you. And I'm looking at the chat. Thanks, Melanie. Also, we think long-term because if right now we're making 75K, but we want to be making 75K a month, we have to do the right things to support that. Like if we have a lemonade stand and we want to make $1 million, we're not going to be able to do it with our current setup of our cups. And, if we have all the leads in the world and all the lines, we're still not going to be able to make $10,000 that day or $1 million in our businesses unless we make some changes. So take the time, sit down, get quiet, think about your vision. What would make your life an amazing life? What would make your year an amazing year? Get that dream board together. And yeah, we'll talk more about the letters in a minute. Again, it's about your life first. It's like a game. You architect it and build it with the actions, little bitty bricks, action by action. And it's a good idea to connect with your future self and see what comes up. This is the letters. Like, what would your hell yeah, best year ever look like? And what would that allow you to do, to have, to experience? Like, how would it feel? What if you had 50,000 in the bank? Like, what if you could take your family to the beach? Or really get clear on your future self, connect with that future self, and then we can work backwards. All right. And yeah, then your actions feel less sucky and more exciting. So your 1 year from now, what had to happen to make this true? Your health, your wealth, all of that. And I am even going to write a letter to my future self and put it on my desk so I can see it and say, I'm so happy and grateful now that blank. I did blank and that allowed me to blank. Like, be so clear that you can really feel what it's like after it already happened. You can also write a letter to your future self in 1 year if you did not do your things and change your habits and get the results you wanted. Hey, we're in the same place. We have even more debt now. And, get clear on what that feels like too. A lot of people are driven more by pain than by pleasure.